Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. With host and founder Richard Case and co-host and retreat leader Kathy Ricconi. Today is our special guest day, where we will hear from a friend of the ministry who will share their insight and stories on truth in this chaotic world. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is Guest Thursday, and we have some very special guests. Lilian, Silvano, Radke from, well, you're from various places.
Now they're from Florida, right?
Yeah. So you have a business, I think, up in New England and also down in Florida. Tell us, where are you guys right now? What city do you live in now?
Well, we're currently in Claremont. We're about 20 minutes out of Orlando.
Okay. So you're in Orlando. How are you enjoying Florida?
More than we thought we would. We enjoy it very much.
Yeah.
We've been here for 2.5 years now.
Yeah. Now, do you still have a place up in Rhode Island at all? Do you go back and forth to, or?
Yes, we have our main business in Massachusetts, and we go there every other year. But
Okay.
our house, our family, our kids, it's here.
Okay.
January, February, I'm not going to New England. I don't want to see the snow or
You did that long enough, right?
Is it snowing up there today, Kathy?
It is not, but it is extremely cold. With the wind is like roaring around here, and I think it feels like it's 11 degrees outside, they said. So
That's cold.
it's a little chillier than they are in Florida.
Yeah.
I'm a little jealous.
Yeah. That's why they went to Florida. Well, it's great having you. We've known them for many, many years now, and they are just great examples of what it means to walk with God, how they learned to do that. So first of all, so our audience can get to know you better, is each of you, if you would, tell us how you each came to know Christ.
So I'm from Brazil, and I lived in Brazil until I was 18 years old. And my mom was a pastor kid. And so I was born and raised in a Christian environment where, my mom prayed with us every day. And we didn't read the Bible every day because she was always very busy. But we had that relationship with Christ. But I remember when I was a teenager, I had a very good pastor, and he really thought on how to be closer to God. And I remember it's like, okay, this is what it means, relationship. I've been going to church every Sunday, but not really, understanding relationship. And I remember going home and throwing away any secular music that I had and throwing my sister's music that she had.
Oh, your sisters? You threw hers out too?
Yeah.
Yeah, good move.
I love it.
Who remembers that story? I think she's too mad at me for that. But I wasn't that first love. All I want to do was Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. So my life basically as a teenager was school, volleyball practice, and then going to church.
Yeah. Now,
I had that. My mom.
How old were you
Sorry?
then?
That was I was 12 until 18. So my
Okay.
whole teenager years.
Okay, great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Vanus, how about you?
Well, I'm a pastor's kid, so I was definitely raised in the church. I did have my, what you'd probably call my rebel years. I think probably about time when I got my driver's license and I could go anywhere and do anything. Aside from when I didn't, my parents took me to church and I didn't have an option. So I always said, well, whenever I get a chance, I'm gonna do my own stuff. And I didn't lose myself until I probably was 19 years old. I came to a point that I was so ashamed of the life I was living that I couldn't even look up in the sky, even to enjoy the sun or the moon or the stars. And I think it was right around before I turned 20 that I really got tired of feeling ashamed and far from God, that I decided that I want to reconcile with God. So I would say that I came to know Jesus all my life, but to have a relationship with him is when I decided hiding away from my parents, watching TV at night. A preacher came online and he said, you know, you're there and you're ashamed of even looking in the sky, and you're ashamed of God, but he's telling you that he still loves you, and he's calling you back. And I remember he put his hands up and he said, put your hands here and I'm gonna pray with you. And I snuck around and I looked to see if my parents were, if nobody was seeing me. And I went there, I put my hand on the TV and he prayed and I prayed. And I tell you the truth, like 5 minutes later, could not find that channel.
Wow.
So it was definitely a life-changing experience for me.
Yeah. Wow.
Were you living in Brazil at this time, or where
No,
were you?
I was living in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Okay.
When did you move? Because you're from Brazil too, right?
Yes. I came with my parents, my older sister, my younger brother, back in 1995.
Okay.
We lived in Massachusetts basically all of our lives. I did step out shortly after I came back to Christ. God called me and told me to go help a pastor in Hawaii. And everybody still makes fun of me. It's like, oh, you know, God didn't call you to Africa, he called you to Hawaii.
Yeah, what the heck?
Sounds like a nice calling to me.
Yeah. It was a very, very good experience. I stayed there for 3 years, and it was also another step into having a closer relationship with God. Yes.
Yeah. Where did you grow up in
That's
Brazil,
beautiful.
Silvano?
I grew up in Curitiba, which is just south of her home state of São Paulo. We lived about 10 hours away by car and about an hour and a half by plane.
Yep.
But we didn't know each other back then.
No.
So did you guys meet then in Massachusetts?
How we met, it was God took me from here and put us together.
Well, I initially, when I was in Hawaii in 2004, I did have a dream with her. It was something that brought peace to my heart because I was always scared of the unknown. And in my mind, I always ran up, wow, you know, I'm almost 24 years old and I'm gonna meet somebody that was raised somewhere else with different principles and everything. And I'm gonna have to commit myself to having a lifetime with that person. And that was really hard in my mind because I couldn't process having a girlfriend for more than 6 months. And all of a sudden you're talking about 20, 30, 40, 50 years or, you know, until you die. And I just couldn't grasp that. And God gave me a dream and showed her to me. And because I had that certainty that God had prepared somebody for me, had actually visualized, I was at peace with that. And when I finally met her, I was courageous enough or bold enough to fly to Brazil and go to her house and take her to a restaurant. She didn't know that I was going to marry her, but I knew it. I kept it quiet for a while.
Okay. So, so you have this dream, and
Yeah.
You fly to Brazil to meet Lily.
Mhm.
Okay, now
Yes.
how exactly did you wind up with her specifically going to Brazil to meet with her? And by the way, how old were you now, Lilian, when he came?
I was 19, but I wasn't living in Brazil. I was on vacation in Brazil because I was also living in the United States. So I know people like, how do you connect the dots? So I got a full scholarship for playing volleyball at University of Arkansas. So at that time I was living in Arkansas and, you know, thinking 4 years, I just go back to Brazil, find a job, and that would be my life.
Did you play on the team, on the Arkansas volleyball team?
Yes.
Lilian is an excellent volleyball player. If you did not know that, I have had the privilege of watching her play at some of the C12 events, and you don't want to be on the other side of that.
Well, I used to, right? When I was back in super shape.
Okay, so you're at Arkansas volleyball scholarship.
Yeah.
And what happened after that?
So every summer I go to Brazil for my summer vacation. The college didn't pay for my airplane tickets and everything.
Oh, nice.
And Silvano in Hawaii heard about Bible college in Missouri. It's called CBC, right? Central Bible College.
Yep.
And I used to call my mom. I was like, Mom, I think I'm the only immigrant in this state. They don't even know where's Brazil. I don't know anybody else, and my English was kind of intermediate, wasn't really well, and I wish I had like other friends, and then my mom's boss in Brazil went to this college called Central Bible College. She worked for American, so his dad knew about my mom's boss and called them and said, hey, can you do a referral for my son? He's moving to Missouri. And my mom, being a super extrovert, say, hey, I have a daughter in Arkansas. I know it's, there'll be sort of neighbors in state. They might be able to connect and see each other there. My daughter, she's kind of lonely there. I didn't know anybody when I moved, besides my coach. And we started talking at the MSN. Remember that? MSN? it's the old
MSN, Microsoft Network, right? MSN.com.
Yeah. And then I had my picture there, me and a Brazilian friend. So like a dark skin and dark haired girl, and me that was a blonde. And we keep talking for a while. And then after a couple weeks, I told him like, oh, I forgot to tell you, I'm on the blonde on the picture. And then what was your reaction at that day?
Well, I remember a little bit different. Her mom actually, when she was, she required all the information for her boss to sign. She said, that Lilian was by herself, that she needed, Brazilian friends and things like that because she felt alone. And then she gave my mom and my dad Lilian's email. And then my mom calls me and says, why don't you email this girl? I'm like, Mom, I'm not gonna email a girl that I don't even know. And she's like, no, email her. You guys are gonna live close together and you should meet up. And she plays volleyball. She'll probably go to Springfield to play and you're gonna get to watch her. So I resisted for about 2 weeks, but I was missing my mom. And I wanted to talk to her, and I told a friend of mine, man, I'm missing my mom. But every time I call her, she's telling me to email this girl, and I don't want to get, involved. God already gave me a dream, and I'm just going to stick to it. When I see her, I will know who she is.
And because you said that my girl is probably not Brazilian, because tall, blonde,
Yes.
is not very typical in Brazil.
Right, yeah. Either she was American or she was European, so I didn't even bother. And then after a while, like, okay, my friend convinced me to add her to MSN Messenger, so I did. And for a couple of days, like, she didn't pop up online or anything, because every time you would log in, you show like this person, Lilian, is online. So one day I'm in this mission base, and you only allow 30 minutes to use the computer. I'm on my 30 minutes, and she pops up. Her name pops up, and we're on a maybe 7 or 8 hours difference. And so her name pops up, and we started having a conversation. And I have a picture on my profile, me and my Norwegian friend. And he's blonde, curly hair, blue eyes. And back then I had a lot more hair. I was a surfer dude, so I had curly. My hair when it grows long is curly.
Yeah.
So I was the brunette version of him. And then Lilian goes online, and I look at the picture, and there is a brunette and a blonde. And I look at the brunette, and she is a carioca. She's a Brazilian, true and true. She's a Ipanema girl. So as soon as I look at the picture, it's like, well, that's not her. One thing another way, that's not the girl that God showed me in the dream. But I didn't even look at the blonde one. It didn't dawn on me to look and say, oh, Brazilian blonde girl, blue eyes. I didn't even look at her.
Right.
We're having a conversation. Her first question is, how tall are you? And I'm like, wow, she wants to know my height, like from the get-go. So I answered to her, I'm 6'3", and then she asked me which one in the picture am I? And I'm like, I look at this. My friend was really good looking. I was like, man, I already lost this one. I said, I'm the guy with the dark hair. And then she answers, I'm the blonde one. And when she said that, I did a double take. I look at the picture, and it was the girl that I had dreamed about. And now it was so like my heart started pounding so fast, and it was so strong. I jumped out of my seat. I ran out, and I'm in a mission base. There's probably about 40 people there from all over the world, from Germany, Sweden, Norway, Peru, Brazil, everywhere. And I run outside like, I found my wife. To this day, I still think it was like really foolish. And so my friends were like, poor guy, you know, he just got out of a relationship, he's brokenhearted. Now he's looking for like, you know, catfishes online. So.
Did Lilian, did you tell him how tall you were?
Well, yeah, because I'm 6 foot, and I wouldn't waste time talking to anybody less than 6 foot.
I love it.
No, it needs to be taller. But I remember going to Hawaii after we got married, and all his friends call me the blonde of the dream. You were the blonde of the dream.
The blonde of the dream. Wow.
Oh,
That's
I love
amazing.
it.
So then so Silvano, you fly to Brazil.
Yes.
And spend some time with her, Lilian. What did you guys do next that then moved you into, more dating and engagement and marriage? How did that work?
Yes, I was on my summer vacation there. I only had 4 days left when he arrived to meet me because we were having good conversations online. My mom was already in love of him being Christian, and then we go out for a date. The next day I leave. And then I go back to the United States. First thing I want to do is to call my home and talk to him.
Yeah.
And then my sister answers the phone. It's like, this guy is crazy. He just talked to me. He's saying he's gonna get married to you. Run away from him.
Well, I told her sister. I took her to the best Italian restaurant in town, and it was a very fancy place. My dad had given me $100, and $100 goes a long way in Brazil. So I took her to a really fancy restaurant, and her sister, and then the next day we took her to the airport. At night, the same Saturday, her sister said, "Oh, I want to go to a restaurant." So she took me to the most expensive French restaurant in town. So it was on my tab too. And then I told her, within a year, I'm gonna get married to your sister. And the next day, Lilian calls her. We had left her at the airport. She arrived in the United States. She calls home, and her sister answered the phone. It's like, this guy is crazy. He's telling me he's gonna get married to you within a year. Run away from him.
Yeah.
And I think that helped. I think her story really helped.
But fast forward, he went back to Massachusetts. It didn't work out for him to go to Missouri, and we started dating from Arkansas to Massachusetts. It was kind of, we spent hours and hours on the phone. Remember how that works? And then he asked me, like, we will probably get married soon. Would you want me to move to Arkansas, or are you gonna move to Massachusetts? And then I said, I'm packing tonight. There's nothing going on here in Arkansas. They go to Walmart on Saturday.
So now all those people in Arkansas that she just offended, don't take it personal.
No, I love why I was there, but it was very different from being from São Paulo. São Paulo is sort of like the New York from Brazil. So
right.
Going from New York to Arkansas, it was different.
Very big change, yeah.
Yeah. So you go to Massachusetts, and then you get married there, right?
Yeah, we got engaged there, but the actual wedding party was in Brazil. Because most of my
family. Oh, how nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice.
His parents flew in. My parents were still there, and relatives and friends. And we got married to my hometown and the church that I grew in, which has like 7,000 members. So it was a big party.
Right. Now, how long?
Brazil has.
How long after you got engaged did you get married?
11 months.
Yeah, and on the wedding party, my sister said, oh, you asked her like, so do you still think I'm crazy? And then she's like, no, pray for me because now I want to get married too.
Have God give somebody a dream for her, right? Is she married now?
Yeah, for a whole year, she like really, like making fun of us, or always like, wow, like it's too soon, it's too fast. And then she goes out to CrossFit, she starts working out. 4 months later, she's engaged. Not engaged. She engaged like really fast, but they got from meeting to getting married, it was in 4 months. So she beat us by a lot.
Wow. Now, does she live in Brazil still?
No, she lives here in Kansas City. Her husband is born and raised in Kansas.
Okay.
But one thing important, so the girl, any teenagers don't think that I fall for this wedding, for this vision talk or this dream talk, right? I went on my own and I prayed, okay, God gave him a vision. And I believe that, but I also want to have my own confirmation. So I remember being in a prayer meeting with my mother-in-law because she was the leader.
Future mother.
Oh, my future mother-in-law. And then I look on the side, there was a book handwritten, and I said, what is this? And then God told me that's the story that I wrote from you and Silvano. I personally handwrote this story. Wow. So I feel a few pieces about getting married to him because God had our story already written down.
Wow.
That's beautiful. I love that.
It's a great story. Beautiful. So how many years have you been married now?
16 and a half.
Yeah, we're going to 17 years, June 11th.
Yeah. And how many children do you guys have now?
Boy, Samuel, 10 years old, and Sarah, she's 8.
Yep. Great. And I know that the two of you own a business together. Tell us about that. How did that come about? And I know you started it up in Massachusetts, and then you wound up in Florida and buying another one. And tell us a little bit about what you're doing now with your business.
Mm-hmm. Silvano started the business in 2006. Right after a year, we got married with a partner that had a cleaning business in Boston area, but they both saw Worcester, Massachusetts as a potential. And when Silvano moved to United States, when he was a teenager, his dad, even though he was a pastor, he also did some cleaning jobs. And Silvano will go and help his dad, and that's where he started cleaning knowledge. And this partner had a commercial cleaning company in Boston, and saw Worcester, big buildings and good potential to do the same. And we don't do residential, just commercial cleaning. So from 2006 to 2009, they started growing up from 1 account to 2 accounts. Silvano was a banker day and cleaner at night. And I had my job as a sales, and then I became sales manager in a place that we used to sell granite and quartz countertops. And then in 2009, they decided to split because they just felt they didn't have the same values. The guy was Christian too, but just would do admin different than Silvano would. So then in 2009, they split, and Silvano used to do operations and the partner more sales. And then he told Silvano, like, if we split, who's going to do sales for you? And then Silvano said, well, my wife. And then he said, well, in this business, it's more for male. Your wife definitely not going to succeed.
He did not know you well.
Well, he said that she didn't like a cleaner show, so she would get no respect from the market.
Yeah.
The problem, I heard that statement. I heard you say.
That's right.
Challenge accepted.
Right.
So then in 2010, I left my job full time. We didn't have any kids, so we felt it was a good time to risk it. And we had 4 accounts in 2010. Today we have 164 in New England.
Wow.
Yeah, my husband's company is one of those accounts too.
Yeah. Yeah. We clean Bixby International.
Yeah,
yes.
Beautiful. Yeah. And then how did you you acquired a company down in Florida, right? And you moved down there. How did that come about?
Lilian was called to speak at Day of Unity in C12 Tampa. So after she spoke, a couple approached us and say, "Oh, we're in the same industry. Let's sit down for coffee or lunch or something." And about a month later, he called us and he said, "Let's meet." And I would say, "Sure. Where do you want to go?" He says, "No, I want to get you guys over to my house. I'll cook and we'll talk about business." So we were on the way there, and at this time we were going through 3 different audits, and we had just 6 months before we had just moved to Florida, and me and Neil were okay. I think God's showing us that He's closing the doors to Massachusetts. He brought us to Florida for a reason, and it's almost like he was detaching us. And I said, well, maybe in my heart, I knew what was going to happen, but since there was so much turmoil around, I said, well, maybe He's calling us that He wants to buy our business in Massachusetts. It was just like, God, please take this pain away from me. And when we arrived there, we had a really good conversation. And I was telling him that everything that happened for us to get to Florida, it was everything that I didn't want to do. I never wanted to move to Florida, but God brought us to Florida. When God spoke to us that we were coming to Florida, we said, okay, either Clearwater, Sarasota area, like nice beach and a nice place. And so we prayed about it, and God said Orlando. I was like, I didn't want to come to Florida. I didn't want to come to Orlando. And one of the reasons we moved here because we wanted to start a company here in Florida instead of buying one because it was too expensive to buy one. And then I arrived here and said, okay, we've been in a Brazilian church for 15 years. Now let's go to an American church. Let's raise our kids in an American church. So we visited 3 different churches, American, and we didn't feel, it was the right place. And then we went to on the 4th Sunday, we went to Portuguese-speaking church, and God really knocked our socks off. And when we came out, it was like, okay, we both didn't want to go to that church, but we knew it was the right place. So I was telling him this story. I said, and he turned to me and he said, well, you didn't want to move to Florida, God brought you to Florida. You didn't want to go to Orlando, God took you to Orlando. You didn't want to go to a Brazilian church, God took you to a Brazilian church. You don't want to buy a business, I'm here to sell you a business because God told us to call you to tell you that we should sell the business to you.
Wow.
And I was floored. I mean, we had, I think back then we even spoke with you, Rich, and with Dave, and you guys were helping us because we ran into a cash flow. We grew 42% the year before. We ran into cash flow problems, and we felt stuck all over. It was like, there's no way you're getting out of this. And then now this guy's telling me he has a multi-million-dollar business. God told him to sell it to us. It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense at all. So I was speechless, like really speechless. So I asked where the bathroom was, and I went to the bathroom. And as I got there, I closed the door, and above the toilet there was a verse that said that God was a God of miracles. And I looked at that and I said, well, it's definitely going to take a miracle, but if this is the word in the bathroom, I'll take it.
So he comes back from the bathroom crying. I was like, honey, what happened in the bathroom?
Wow, that's amazing. Well, what a great story. So tell us a little bit, you guys, I know you learned abiding. You came up to a retreat in New Hampshire and learned abiding. How does that work for you? What difference has that made in your life as you've learned what it means to abide and walk with God? Tell us a little bit about that aspect of your spiritual walk.
We ourselves and so many friends that went to the same abiding retreat, we keep calling us before abiding retreat and us after, right?
It's life-changing, right?
Right. And thanks to you, Rich, that dedicated time and yourself and Linda to be there for us and to teach us that. Because truly, first of all, making decisions as business owners, it's so important. Like right now we have 250 employees up there and 100 here.
Wow.
So any decisions that we make, we're impacting 350 families, right? So who am I to make any decisions without consulting the dad that gave us the company, right?
Right.
Yes.
That's right.
Consulting him, listening from him, and the power. I think the most powerful thing you taught us is how together the Holy Spirit will speak to me and to him.
Yep.
And we're both gonna have the same answers. And if we don't worry about it. Keep praying, and we will. So after that, we have many different testimonies, even from buying this company and from moving to Florida, and many stories that happen that we abided, we got an answer, and then we act on it, or we didn't. And I keep joking with Silvano, like, what if we had done abiding in 2008 or 7 when we did an investment that didn't go well, and that.
Can you talk us through a little bit what the abiding looked like in one of those decisions that you've had in the last few years? What that looked like for you?
Yeah, so I'm going to share a small example. Maybe he can share when he was abiding, writing that made us have peace about buying this company.
Perfect.
In the midst of all. So my tiny little example, it happened not too long ago. Everybody hears about the lack of labor, right? Scarcity of labor. So everywhere I went, even AC12 groups, which is the Christian CEO groups that we belong to, and everywhere I go, people are whining and complaining about the lack of employees, right?
I may have heard that a few times around here too.
Right? You hear that on the news, you hear that with your friends, and all of a sudden you are with them, whining and complaining, right? And then everybody's blaming the president, blaming COVID, blaming the paychecks, whoever, any names people blame for. And I keep thinking, and right in the middle of the year, we got to clean 2 new stadiums. One is for the junior team of Red Sox called Wood Sox in Massachusetts.
Nice.
And another one is called DCU Center, which is like a convention center in the city where we have our office. And I keep thinking, if God gave me those contracts, I mean, we can't be without employees. So I was doing my abiding and reading the scripture, and like Rich taught us, circle the words, connect the words. So I keep circle the words from unlimited resources, from the Bible verse that I am the owner of the gold, the silver, all the resources. So I circle like 3 times unlimited resources, because the day before I was in our management meeting with HR and HR assistant, and guess what we were doing? Complaining and whining. And then I start unlimited resources, and I keep thinking, God gave us these accounts, and He's the owner of all the resources. He must have the people to work for us, and my job is just to tell Him what He tells not to do, which is whining and complaining, and just have faith and trust. Even though every company in the United States might be lacking job, our company won't, because He's the leader. So I remember going down the stairs really quick, calling the HR, and okay, that's it. We're not going to be whining and complaining anymore. We're going to trust that God will send. We had 19 positions open. 2 weeks later, we went down to 2.
Wow.
Wow. That is a beautiful testimony. I love that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Do you want to share how we...
Well, I'm going to share a different one. While she was talking, I said, well, I can share something about that I abided and I asked God for an answer. But I remember one that I was abiding and I didn't even ask God for it. It was just happened. Right in the beginning of COVID, we do have a prayer room in the house. It's the 6th bedroom. We turned into a prayer room. Since before we moved to the house, this was a place when the house was being built. We always took friends here, say, this is going to be our house, let's pray, this is going to be the prayer room. So it is the prayer room. That's where we do our prayer, our devotionals. And right at the beginning of COVID, I was doing my grateful moments, writing down the things I'm grateful for. And I said, what? I'm going to call my kids to do this here with me. And I called them to the room and I said, tell me something you're grateful for today. And my son was like, I'm grateful for life and for this. And my daughter went off for like probably 5 minutes. She was grateful for everything, even her socks. And I was like, wow, this is pretty good. And I really felt to call them there. And then for about a week, we kept doing that. And all of a sudden, like, hey, we're doing this every day. Why don't we call mommy here? So we called mommy up there, and it's usually the time she's already going to sleep. But she went up, and we kept on doing it. And we still, and it has been like a point of like a mark in our lives, because we didn't know any family that does that, and we start doing it, and now we have other people that does it too, and it has changed our kids. Like our kids are, my daughter will come up and say, I have a surprise. It's like, what do you mean? No, because I'm grateful for something, and you guys are gonna be amazed. So both of them, they look throughout the day for things that they are grateful for. And after probably about 6 months, I was like, how did I start doing this? And I remember it was on my abiding. I felt from God to do that, like spur of the moment. They became like, a trend in our family. So I'm really grateful for that.
That's beautiful. I love that story.
Yeah, and even if one of us is traveling, the kids will record it and send us a thankful of the day. It's so cute. So we don't go a day without doing it.
Yeah, yeah. And I know when you were, processing that acquisition, the Lord was giving you all kinds of direction in terms of the time. By the way, how long did it take to do all that, and what were some of the things that you processed together to continue to pursue that, which was miraculous, really, what happened?
It took us a year from a year and a half from the time we met the former owner, and throughout the process, 2, maybe 3 times he canceled on us on the last minute, and we would go back to the word and say, okay, God, you said that was gonna happen. Everything changed. Should we continue to pursue it, or should we stop? And God always said, continue. Even when I was like, okay, that's it. If he changes the date one more time, I'm done. I'm tired. Like I'm not even gonna buy it anymore. It's over.
Yeah.
And then he went to Mexico for ministry, and that's why they sold the business, because they do ministry in Mexico. They have opened over 50 churches. They over 50 or 60 churches in Central America. So he has a heart for ministry. And so he was there. He was coming back, and they did a test, and like, you guys got COVID. You can't sign the paperwork tomorrow, basically. So I said, oh, we're stuck here at the hotel. We can't go anywhere. So tomorrow it's not gonna happen. I was like, okay, that's not him. That is, something else. And we stuck to it to say, let's reschedule. We did for 31st of August, and on 31st of August we signed the paperwork, and
it has been better than we thought it would.
Oh, we had very good surprises after we bought the business.
Yeah, good. Yeah, in a good way. So moving to Florida after we abided and decided to be here, every area of our life, it's better than we thought we would. It's just amazing what God has. That Bible verse that says, God do furthermore than you think, right?
Yeah, Ephesians 3:20.
Yep.
I knew you knew.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you have discovered are even better? What are they?
I would say our marriage and our relationship, because it used to be, okay, I'm here making these decisions and you're there making these decisions, and maybe sometimes we'll share why we made, but the powerful behind of us aligned and in unity, making the same decision, it's very, very powerful, because throughout the process of buying this company, there are some days that the seller was cold feet, and because we knew for sure, he was like, God confirmed to me and Lilian that we are going to buy this company, even though the bank hasn't said yes and yet.
Right.
But if you change your mind, it's okay, but we are sure of that. So, and that was such a power, because let's say if you came to us like, oh, I'm not so sure, and we're like, oh, we're not so sure too, and this probably fade away. But because we were sure, I think it made, the deal. And we were only sure because we learned how to abide and how to hear. But a good question that you asked, like how long it took it, because not necessarily every prayer and every abiding has the same amount of time.
Right.
Right. Some days it could be in a couple of days, or some days it might take years, and there's no right timing for that, I guess.
Yeah, I think everything changed, like absolutely everything, even my perspective on the church, which when we came from Massachusetts, we didn't want to go to a Brazilian church because we had been feeling burnt out, and the Brazilian church structure is different than the American church, and we wanted a different structure. We want everything, and a lot was about God healing us. It wasn't about the church structure. It was about our spiritual structure, our mental structure. So in the last 2 years, God has basically washed away a lot of sin and shame and everything, and our lives really changed. Our kids' lives changed, and they are respected in the school. They're respected in the church. Their grades just like now before they didn't get straight A's. Now they are straight A's. Last November, both of them got a Student of the Month award for their respective classes, third grade and fifth grade. In everything, we see everything through business and personal life and spiritual and relationships. I had a birthday back in July. I had 100 different people in my birthday. I never had probably like 20 or 30 people. I remember my first birthday here in the United States. I had no friends to spend with. I spent 24 years in Massachusetts. I never had 100 people in my birthday. And I'm the shy guy. She's the extrovert. And then 2 years in Florida, there is 100 people in my birthday party. And for me, it was the biggest gift I could ever get, because it wasn't about, I got a really nice car on my birthday, but every day I thought back on that day, I was like, wow, there was 100 people there. How did I get to have 100 friends? And I kept asking that question, and it was about church, it was about work, it was about friendship, and even people that we missed back in Massachusetts, guys started bringing them here too. So when I answer this question, it's everything. It's every relationship with God and people. It's literally diverse. Love God and seek His kingdom, and everything else will come from it. So it has been that.
It's a beautiful description of we talk about the covenant, which Kathy and I will have a opportunity to share that topic on the podcast. But when we talk about the covenant, it's blessed to be a blessing, and it's not just we Americans, and you can appreciate it a little bit differently because you have a little bit different perspective. But we tend to think of blessing as just material things, and what you're describing is all of the aspects of life, relationships, marriage, kids, work, fellowship, church, ministry. It all comes together. It's all blessed, and you're just a great example of having had a heart to learn it. God's given it to you, and you're experiencing it. It'll be really exciting to see what's next, actually, for you guys as He continues to bless you and you give it away and help others learn what you're learning. What a beautiful story and testimony that you've given us, and we're just so thrilled for you. It's been fun to watch and walk with you, into your acquisition and moving to Florida and in your business in both places, and what a treat. I know that you both represent your life really well with Christ. So we're just so thankful. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing that story. And Kathy, it'll be fun to catch up with them again and get the next phase of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love just the authenticity that you guys shared there too, and what a beautiful example you are of what it looks like, not just to seek God's wisdom, but then to be willing to follow it and to obey and to surrender and to do it with grateful hearts. And Silvano, as you shared what you led to lead your family in, just the exercise of gratitude daily, I can't help but think of even, we will enter his gates with thanksgiving in our heart, enter his courts with praise. You are setting a precedent there in your family of humility, of gratitude, and that will simply take them so far into understanding their place in abiding with God, and then being willing to trust him, like Lilian said, that he is the God of unlimited resources. The silver is mine, the gold is mine, he says, and that they will be able to see that at such a young age and take that and just watch what you guys have done. You guys are a great example to all of us.
Yeah.
Just thank you for sharing that, all of it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
We wish God's blessing on you, and thank you so much again for sharing, and hope you continue to enjoy Florida and the warm weather.
Yes.
Yes, come visit us.
We will.
I was gonna say, if you need a visitor, let me know.
We'll come down and visit for sure. Well,
We have a
Kathy,
nice
we will tomorrow. We have our End Times Friday that will continue our series on that, and we're excited to have people learn about you guys. So thanks again for joining us, and Kathy, we will see you again tomorrow.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great day.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. See you soon.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.